Hi, welcome to the Legex Show, a podcast that will help you simplify the business ecosystem. Co hosted by the co founders of Legex, Ayush and Vishesh. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the podcast.
Hey guys, welcome to the Legex Show, an amazing podcast where we try to get more amazing people to talk about their journey, their insights, their life, and tell us how their journey has been like. So today we have Mr. Suresh Rangarajan with us, who is the founder and CEO at Colive, India's largest growing co-living community for teenagers. So welcome Suresh to the Legex Show.
Thank you, Vishesh. Thanks, Legex, for hosting me today.
Suresh, why don't you start telling us something about yourself? How your journey has been like.
Yeah, life has been absolutely great. I think I'm one of those entrepreneurs who's in their late 40s. So I've had about 25 years plus of work experience before I started this. So I'm one of those entrepreneurs who has got gray hair. So this is just to demonstrate that startups are not meant only for the mid 20s who are just raw out of college or college dropouts. I think there is a large opportunity for people who are experienced, who have gained momentum in their career to look at startup world as an opportunity for themselves because obviously, it's not, I keep telling this, I've done quasi two startups in the past, been associated with in world's largest online money transfer company called Remit to India, and then with a real estate company by the name Martha. And in both the cases, the experience has been phenomenal, right? I mean, so I keep telling professionals that it is no one ever knows what's your bank balance, but everybody knows what you have achieved in your life. So the resume, the LinkedIn, that's what you take to the grave. You never take money to your grave. So the experiences that you build, the professional achievements that you actually conquer, that's what actually remains with you. It's like this, right? You can uh, no one can take away education from you, right? Once you learn something, it cannot be taken away from you. Similarly, once you achieve something, no one can take it away from you. Whereas you earn money, you can lose money, but you earn name, hopefully you can never lose name. So that's been my philosophy. Obviously, I come from a very middle class family with very very strong you know basic guidance and discipline that was provided by my parents. And they always thought that I would probably come top in the class, top in the school, top in the state, go to a good company to work, and probably even take up a government job and then retire. But obviously you need to keep challenging yourself. So that's the pattern that I have always followed, and I think that's what people have to challenge themselves. They cannot be, there is an easy path that everybody can take, but that's not the path that one should be taking all the time. So that's broadly the summary, but we can go specifics into anything that you find interesting.
No, that sounds amazing, Suresh. So, Suresh, why don't you tell us, about Remit to India? I saw that it has been the world's biggest money supplying company, which transferred money from one country to another. So, why don't you tell us, about that journey in particular?
Yeah, so I've said this in some of the past interviews as well. For me, the twist was trying to do something new. I mean, being a champion of doing 0 to 1 gives a lot of kick, right? I've done this 3 times over when I've come into a company where there has been zero processes, zero revenue, zero employees. The entire kick of identifying that office space, getting that first employee in place, getting that processes in place, then getting the first customer, then you personally being involved in getting that first revenue in the sale in place, creating that product, going live, that the entire satisfaction that one gets out of that is just amazing. And I don't think people who haven't experienced that, they will not realize what I'm saying, and people who have experienced that will never give up that. They will want to keep doing that all over again all the time, right? So sometimes people say scaling is boring, right? When you keep scaling, it is the same thing that you need to replicate all over again every time. The processes are set, everything is set, and you just need to keep replicating. But when you're building something, then it is interesting. Every day poses you a different challenge. So I just want to step back here. I joined Citibank in 1994. Obviously, uh, uh, my parents were very proud that they didn't know what I was doing in Citibank, but they were very proud that I used to wear a tie to my office, right? I mean, very, simple things gave a lot of pleasure to them. So, you dress up well, you go there, but, your learnings are limited because, I always thought in the first 5 years, 10 years in the city, in the bank, I always thought that, city was actually doing so well because I was contributing. But then I had a collarbone fracture and I didn't go to work for about 3 months, and nothing happened to the Citibank stock prices. That's when my realization came that I was just a small fish in a large pond, and it didn't matter whether this fish was swimming or it was dying or whether it was in existence at all. So that's when I realized that that was my defining moment. That was, I think, in 2001. You know, or 2000. And then I realized that, I had to do something which is very, very high impact. So that's when my journey started. There was this joint venture between Citibank and Times of India Group. They were setting up this online financial services destination. We were building an online supermarket. Citi was coming in with its expertise in financial services. We were also partnered with iFlex at that point in time, and Times was bringing in their marketing and branding ability. So we got together to put this plan together to launch an online supermarket. But these were the times when it was 128 kbps internet in India. Forget about 10 Mbps speed, 20 Mbps speed that we experienced 20 years later now. So this was 20 years ago. Connections were actually poop, 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 and it would get disconnected. So, that's how it used to. There used to be a dial-in tone, get connected to the internet, it would get disconnected. And imagine we had to do an online financial supermarket. So obviously we were way ahead of our time, maybe 5-7 years ahead of our time. And we realized that, India was not yet ready. And the only product that actually made sense was the remittance product, an online remittance product. And this was the tech boom that was happening all over. Indians were all over the valley. Indians were all over the United States, in UK, in Australia, all over Europe. And we believed that there was a great opportunity because they were still sending a lot of money back, right? Most of the money was coming in for family maintenance, for investments. And the way it used to come, I mean, today is the day of e-wallets. I transfer money to Vishesh, and in the next 2 seconds, you get an alert saying that money is in your account. But 20 years ago, the only form of money transfer was in the form of a check. So, my customer, an NRI customer in San Francisco or in the Bay Area, would write a check to his father in Hyderabad. The check would come by USPS post. It would take about 2 weeks for the check to reach that father in Hyderabad. The father in Hyderabad would go to his bank, which is State Bank of India, deposit that check. State Bank of India would bundle all the checks that it collected from all over India, send it back to US to do the physical verification. And it would take another 2 weeks for the check to go back. And then the money would come back into a Nostro account. Then it would go back into it would take anywhere between 5 to 6 weeks. There have been umpteen number of cases where people lost their lives, by the time they got money from their children. So I thought there was a great opportunity. So there was this great company in the US called PayPal. And PayPal was probably one of the fastest growing financial services company at that point in time. And I'm sure most of us had built our businesses looking at PayPal. So PayPal would do an instant money transfer at that point in time for any US to US account using something called ACH, which is Automated Clearing House. So we said that why can't we do an ACH equivalent, get money from the NRI's account in Bay Area into a New York account, and then do a bulk transfer from New York to Hyderabad, and then distribute it from Hyderabad to say a Kukatpalli or to a Nellore or whichever the town was. So basically, we broke down the entire cash management into smaller pieces, and we said that let's try it out. And obviously, it had a lot of challenges at that point in time. It looks very simple when we now look back and break it down into smaller pieces, but it was hugely successful. So we went on to become world's largest online money transfer service. The only other method in which people could transfer money was through Western Union, and we gave people like Western Union the biggest sleepless nights, because Remit to India became a household name in NRI community in the US. We were literally in every part. We used to transfer money from almost about 25,000 banks in the US. We had got into a network of 25,000 banks in the US. We were delivering in about 1,300 towns in India, and we were present only in Mumbai. So it was, any venture capitalist dream come true, because we had a dollar revenue and a rupee expense model, right? And it was absolute pure play internet model. Obviously, it had its own challenges because consumer trust was very, very difficult to get. But keeping that aside, I think it was an amazing journey at that point in time. But our biggest threat started coming from other banks, which would start offering similar kind of service. ICICI Bank, so I was the head of this company and the president and CEO of this company, and ICICI Bank wanted to set this up. They, in fact, copied the name. We were Remit Digit to India. ICICI Bank came up with something called Money to India, in the same format, in an orange color. They took away the entire one-downs of mine. Obviously, ours was a startup, and they promised brilliant, good future with ICICI Bank, and my guys would just hop, jump, and leave my office in Mumbai and go and join ICICI Bank office in Bombay. And then I realized that this was going to be a huge threat. How am I going to plug this? And then we came up with this idea saying that, okay, we have this brilliant, internet engine. We have cracked the operations. We have cracked the technology. How do we go and, plug and play ourselves with other banks? So we went to HDFC Bank, which is the next biggest bank. And we told them, listen, you don't need to hire people. You don't need to build all this all over again. Just plug the Remit to India engine. Let it be like the Intel Inside. And let's go out and, launch HDFC Remit. And, you can actually launch it before ICICI Bank. And, Aditya Puri and his team loved this idea. And so we actually quickly partnered with HDFC Bank, with Axis Bank, with Karnataka Bank, Indian Overseas Bank, Indian Bank. Literally about 20 banks in India had, in the next 1 year, adopted our technology. We just white labeled, we just changed the color, and we put it onto their website. So so everybody became internet enabled suddenly. All the banks became internet enabled. They were all using technology. So there was Money to India on one side, there was Remit to India, and all these banks on the other side. So that's how we beat competition, and that's how we became the world's largest online money transfer company. So that, that's how, I would imagine one needs to be like ahead of competition, always keep thinking about what could go wrong. That's where your audit mind starts working, and then start plugging these loopholes with contra product, so that you can go out and establish. So that was my journey in Remit to India.
That's an amazing example, of how business partnerships and ecosystem evolve over the time. So, Suresh, I would, really love to know that when you go about, pitching these things to enterprises, it's, a B2B sale. When we say that, we are making an enterprise sale or an enterprise partnership, is a lot more complicated in nature when compared to, individuals, B2C, or even the small businesses. So how do you see that, startups who are just starting out should go about doing these enterprise sales or, enterprise partnerships? What's your key, formula for that?
Yeah, yes, this is a classical question, right? B2C sales versus B2B sales, right? It's a very pertinent point. Which path do you take? So B2C sales, sometimes is you need to build trust, you need to have volumes, you need to have scale. So when I did my B2C sales, you need to show people that you can do it yourself, right? My NRI customers were in the US. I would stay up in the night, speak to customers, tell them that, listen, this is my personal guarantee. You transfer money, I will transfer it here. Now, when it came to B2B sales, enterprise sales, obviously, that requires a lot more maturity, the way you present yourself. So it again depends on your reliability of your technology, reliability of what you build as a product. You cannot have, so when you're interacting with a direct to consumer, you can have probably some blips. But when you're going and pitching it to an enterprise, it is the enterprise's brand reputation which is at risk, right? If HDFC was signing up, Remit to India as its remittance service, it was putting on block HDFC's brand reputation at risk. So that's the kind of robust technology, that's the kind of robust operations that you needed to build. And that requires a different skill set. And the other important thing is, people start believing that B2B sales are very, very exciting, right? You crack a deal, you get $1 million, revenue, right? And you keep waiting for it for 8 months, 9 months, and you always feel that you're almost there. You're just going to be at the tip of that. So I always recommend that, you can't be focused on that one big deal, right? Even in my current organization, we have a 85-90% skew towards B2C sales versus 10-15% skew towards a B2B sales, right? In a co-living, I go out and get my customers directly or through the internet, or I would partner with a college or a university or a company to say that, listen, you can send your employees to stay with me. In both the cases, the important thing is to have a blend and a mix of both. Otherwise, what happens is you end up thinking that you're going to get that one big deal which will help you, come over for the next 2 years, and that may not happen at all. Right at the last moment, you might end up with something wrong. Right? I mean, it could be as silly as the counterparty doesn't like your face. Right? I mean, at the end of it, you can't you can't do a makeover there, or you can't change your face to please someone else. So it could be as silly as that, or as as worse as somebody who's making the decision knows your competition, they picked up the phone and your competition dropped off your prices to zero to just get an entry. So enterprise sales has to be very, very measured. You have to have a large pipeline before you get into it, and you cannot be just dependent on it. You have to have a right blend of the two. It could be 50-50, it could be 80-20, but you need to have a right blend of it. You can't be dependent on one big deal. That's a complete wrong strategy.
So, Suresh, when we talk about your business, I saw that maybe most of them have been bootstrapped, or are they venture funded?
Sorry.
So when we talk about your businesses, Artha, Remit to India, or when we talk about Colive, are they bootstrap businesses, or are they dependent on venture money?
So I've been fortunate enough in most of my businesses. I've been able to partner with obviously I started bootstrap, but most of my businesses have been backed by a family house, a large corporation. Remit to India was obviously backed by Times of India and Citibank, though it became 100% Times of India. 100% in the sense, Times of India took over most of it from Citibank. Artha was again, started by me and my, employee friends, and then it became supported by Times of India Group. And here again, it's a nice joint venture that I've struck with one of the largest and leading real estate developers in the country called Salarpuria Satwa. So every entrepreneur has this really nice path that they can take. They can obviously, take up a venture funded, or just have friends and family, or then scale up to a PE, or then get backed by a family or a larger corporation. So these are different paths, and each of these investors will take you in a different direction. Right? One needs to be conversant, when one needs to be sure about the pros and cons of partnering with each one of them before you scale up into your next level by taking their money. Right? So two most popular things which everybody does in the startup world today: either you get venture funded, or you partner with a large industrial house. Venture funded will take you in a different direction, where scale is more important than profitability, whereas a industrial existing brand like a Salarpuria will drive you to a combination of profitability at scale and focus on unit economics. One is a very short-term approach, one is a very, very long-term approach. So one needs to be measured about who you partner with, because based on what kind of ambitions that you have as an entrepreneur before taking up, a partner, whether it's a venture-funded company or an industrial house.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds amazing. So, Suresh, when you say that your businesses relied on partnerships, most of the businesses are, in a sense that they partner with the organization, they take some external money. But what do you think is going to be the differentiating factor in any kind of venture? That what is the key thing that makes difference, and what is successful and what is not?
Ultimately, there are some key aspects, right? Finally, I strongly believe that you create a great product knowing your customer fully well, it will always sell. So to me, product and the way you package the product becomes way more important. To me, product, you have to create a consumer oriented product and then package it so well that the consumer just loves it. Ultimately, after that, everything falls in place, right? Your pricing power comes because your product is good and it is packaged well. Your consumer retention happens because your product is strong and you have packaged it so well, and because the consumer gets attached to your brand. And that's where the retention comes in, right? Ultimately, your employees also feel proud and continue to work with you and don't hop, skip, and jump from one company to the other company because you are offering a reliable product, because they are not looking at it short term. If you were selling a faulty product, 3 months later, 6 months later, the sales guys, the operations guys, the customer service guys, they're all going to be in a lot of trouble because they're all going to be, submerged with queries and problems and issues that they have to face with customers. So the product becomes very important. Packaging becomes more important. That's it.
Oh, that's an amazing insight. So, Suresh, being a serial entrepreneur, doing a lot of startups at a point, I saw that your journey started from doing BCom and CA, which is a very traditional thing when it comes to startup world. We have not seen many CAs venture into things like this. So, how do you differentiate that? What has been your journey like? That is there any kind of distinction when it comes to doing your academia, or is there a particular kind of flow that flows from one part of your journey in life, the academia, the academic stuff, doing all these studies, and then to industry? How's the difference like?
Yeah, true. I think it's very unfortunate that I come. I have not used too much of what my academics has been in the last 25 years. I've been more a banker, a financial services guy, and then now into internet-based technology and things like that. It is, of course, yes, as you rightly said, there's not too much of evidence of many chartered accountants taking up into the startup world, but I think what is important is the personality trait more than what the education is. If I go back in time, I think I always had a flair for doing something new. Whether it was in the school, I was I was the head boy in school. I used to run the culturals in my college. So I guess there is a path and there is a distinction. People get opportunities to kind of take up different education, but I guess it finally matters as to what kind of a personality that you are, right? So that's where my journey began. But I think I'm so glad that I spent a good amount of time in Yale University in 2016. I took a break between my last two ventures and before I started Colive, and that actually the executive MBA that I took there was amazing because it just helped. So that's probably I took 20 years to go back to school again to take my executive MBA, but probably people have to go back after 5-7 years to pick up an MBA because it just gives you that kind of a matured, measured approach towards education. You do all your education one shot. I don't think you will be such a well-rounded personality because when I went back, I met such amazing people back in the university. The way that I connected back with the professors was at a different level because it was not about just me learning from them. It was about them listening to my 20 years or 2 decades of experience, right? I mean, my colleagues, my fellow students, when I was doing my coursework in New Haven in the US, it was amazing. It was a different kind of an experience. So for me, I think that's the perfect thing. You your personality actually determines where you end up in your professional career. It's not your academics. Your academics actually makes you sound in terms of your, what you want to do in your future. But I think it is very, very important for you to do your academics in 2 installments, not everything at once. That's what I would say in summary.
No, that's really insightful. So, Suresh, let's come to the particular startup that you are doing now. So, can you just give us, a little more background about Colive, how this has started out? I saw that you were doing Artha, and then Colive happened, and then it just kept on happening. It went on to become the mainstream thing. So, how did you venture out over there?
Yeah, I think as I was mentioning to you, I think it's to me. Let me just go back in time a little bit. From Remit to India. Let me connect the dots as to how I landed up in Colive. Remit to India. We were almost doing about $2 billion of remittances annually, and most of the money was not actually coming in for family maintenance. It was coming in for real estate investments, and that's when I thought that, listen, there is no point just making money in the money transfer business, but let me show them how to deploy this $2 billion as well in India. And that's how real estate happened, from a financial services and an internet company into a real estate happened, because I thought that there was an opportunity for me to make few more bucks, few more dollars by showing them where to invest. And when I started showing them where to invest, one of the journey that led this was people started asking me, listen, okay, I can deploy my money into real estate, but who's going to take care of my real estate? Right? And that's when I thought that, yes, in India, organized property management companies are not there. You buy a home, you are in Delhi today, you buy a home, you get transferred to Hyderabad. What happens to your Delhi home? Who takes care of it? Earlier it was very easy to call your uncle, your cousin to take care of it. But now, a professional life that we lead, we don't want to go back to, mom and pop and, try and fix issues. So there is no professional property management company, which is what is preventing people from scaling up, making real estate investments today. And that was my realization. And I said that, listen, which is the category which will go after real estate investment? I think, at some point in time, REITs will become mainstay, even in residential property, even in rental properties, rental residential properties. And until for all that to evolve, I think it's important to have a property management company. A property management company is someone who uses technology to maintain the facilities and, most importantly, ensure occupancy. And then I realized which is the segment which actually will drive occupancy in a residential real estate. The segment actually is the students. The segment is actually the migrant workers. The segment is actually the migrant professionals who are coming into urban cities. The segment is actually young couples who have not yet purchased a house. So what happens is, from the age group of 18 till say about 34, 35, 18 to 22, you are a student in a new city, you have just moved out of your home, you want someone to take care of your house, you want to live in a house. 18 to 25, you've just taken up a new job, you're in the new city, you want everybody, you want the safety net, you want food to be taken care of, etc., etc. 25 to 29, you just arrived in life, you've suddenly seen money, not yet enough money to buy a house, but you just want some kind of a luxury. You need to be pampered because you've started having some savings. 29 to 32, 33, you just got married, you're a young couple, your husband and wife are working, and you don't want to take on the burden of managing a house, or you're not yet ready to buy a house. So this is the target segment that we went after, and we said that, listen, these are the target segments who will actually take up rental housing in an urban market. And that's how we came up with an idea of co-living. I mean, you'll be stunned, right? Today, co-living is such a mainstream. Everybody talks about that. Why don't we take up a co-living? 4 years ago, or 4.5 years ago, when we started, Colive.com was available for $99. I mean, so that literally it wasn't established not only in India but across the world, which is why .com, .in, everything was available, right? So that's how the world and the landscape changes dramatically. 5 years later, 2025 or maybe 2027, people will be, obviously this will be the only way people will live, right? And these changes happen in our lifetime. We don't even realize it, but it happens. Today I keep giving this example every time I speak. The television screen, at one point in time, I had 6 televisions in my house. Today, not even a single television is in a work. I don't use even a single television, right? You know, television has become obsolete because you want to watch it on an iPad. You want to watch, watching has become so personal. Everything has changed. So dramatically, everything will change and we won't even realize. So living also will change in the next 5-7 years so much that people won't go look beyond co-living as a segment when they move into a new city.
No, that sounds interesting. So Suresh, we recently had Mr. Mohit Narula on the podcast, who is the founder and CEO for Columbia Pacific Communities, who focus on a community co-living for
Suresh,
elderly people.
we'll have to just rejoin
People
the
who are
link
in their
as the
50s,
time limit is
60s,
just
who are
getting
not living
over.
with their families
Can you just
anymore
click on the
because the
click on the
children
link
have
and
either
get
moved
back to
out
the
or
screen
are
again?
somewhere else.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
how
Just
do
have
you
to leave
see
it for
that
a while.
co-live Columbia Pacific Communities, all these
How's it going?
organizations are
Yeah, it's
contributing to
going
the
great.
real estate segment
The recording
industry
has
in
also
India?
started now.
Yeah, I think it's a perfect thing, right? I mean, to me, I have a beautiful slide. Unfortunately, this is an audio show, but I would have loved to present that. Otherwise, it's a life cycle, right? Let's take this properly in a normal manner. 0 or 1 to 18, until your high school, you live with your parents. After that, you move into a college, you move into your first job, you get married, and then you buy your house, you get your children, and then the children, when they reach 18, they go out, and then you become, empty nesters. So this is, and then you again want to go back into a co-living facility. So I think it's a perfect thing. 1 to 18, you live with your family, which is in the US, in the Western world, it's called a multi-family accommodation, where there are multiple generations which actually live in the same household. 18 to 22, you live in a hostel. 22 to 29, you live in a co-living facility. 29 to 35, you live in a rented accommodation. 35 to 60, you live in your own home. 60 onwards, you live in senior citizen co-living communities, not assisted living, but then you move into an assisted living probably after 80. And all these are different segments of real estate, right? One size does not fit all. Between your peak of consumption of real estate is between the age of 35 to 60, where you want a big house, you want to show off, you have a bedroom for your children, you have a bedroom for your parents, you have a master bedroom for yourself, you have a guest room. There is a certain segment. Now that segment, you cannot then make you cannot consume it when you are 70, because you don't want to maintain that house which has got 5 bedrooms and it's got a great lawn, and it is your master bedroom is on the first floor and you have to climb up the stairs, right? These are challenges. So what happens is, between the age group of 35 to 65 is when you consume your own real estate, and otherwise you are in a rented real estate, because the size keeps changing. It keeps shrinking or expanding depending on your status in life. When you're in college, you're probably in a dorm. Then you move into the final year of college, you move into your own room. When you are taking up your first job, you're in a double occupancy. When you settle down, you move into a single occupancy. Real estate cannot shrink based on your desires, right? Which is why rental real estate as a category has to get established. Now, the sooner the developers, the investors, the fund houses realize this, the better it is for the world, right? You cannot make one size and make it fit for all. The consumption patterns are very, very different based on the life stage that you are in. And you cannot, given the liquidity in the market, real estate is defined as an illiquid asset. It is not like mutual fund that I go into an ICICIdirect.com, punch in, 2 days later, money comes in. It never happens in real estate. The earliest that can happen is 2 months for real estate. The earliest, if you are the most lucky. So how do you create flexibility in real estate, which is what is the role of what we call buy to let. Products have to be, one is buy to consume. You buy because you want to live there and you want to consume it. The other category, which is very popular, especially in the UK markets, is buy to let. You build with a purpose to be let it out. So it is called also PBA, purpose built accommodation. So these categories of real estate have to start coming into India, and they are already coming in. It's just that real estate in India has been going through a lot of tough cycles. The interest costs, the interest costs are so high in India that we are not able to create different products here. The expectation for capital is nothing less than 15% in double digits, right? So that's where the problems are. That's where we have challenges. But I think it's a slow process. It will happen that there is going to be a separate category which is already, so for that category to be created, you need operators, you need brands which will manage such facilities, property management companies. So I think the advent has already happened. Mature, branded operators have started coming in. So like the hospitality assets, like the retail mall assets, like the commercial real estate has seen so much of an action in the last 15 years, I think time will soon come for, alternate asset classes.
So, Suresh, here is an interesting thing that just came to my mind. You talked about, remit to India when you were, working around that. You were getting some money from offshores and, getting them back to families here. Now, you saw an opportunity that people want to invest in real estate. Here in India, you also see that one of the, the only thing that most of the people know about investing is to go and purchase, some plots, properties, flats like these. So how do you see the amalgamation of these two things that, suppose that someone in the offshore wants to invest back in India, they give remit to India some money, and the remit to India, purchases some property on their behalf, and then Colive manages that property to let it out to other people. So how do you, see this ecosystem being built out?
Very interesting question, and that's how I saw this entire chain in my life cycle in the last 20 years or so. That money will come in, it will come into regulations have to evolve. Money is there, the consumer demand is there. Real estate has to be purchased in fraction. The fractional ownership has to become organized and legal and reliable. All the three have to come together. It has to become organized, it has to become legal, and it has to become reliable. Because the reason one actually links to the other, right? I mean, people are not trusting this fractional ownership because the same piece of land is sold to 5 people, and it creates you create a scam out of it, right? Because there is nothing to actually physically control it. So there is a 1,000 square feet house, and there are 3 owners, right? And someone in between has taken money from 3 guys and said that this belongs to you. So the reliability, the organized way, and the legalization of this entire fractional ownership is the most important step towards success of retail consumer money flowing into creating rental assets. So money is there. Money is sitting on the fence. Retail consumer money is sitting on the fence. What is going into mutual funds? The same, and in fact more, is available for real estate, because real estate as an asset class is very, very close to every Indian individual's heart. You can't take away real estate from an Indian.
Yeah, even I had a discussion, with my family members, because I was urging them that we can leave this house. So the house that I currently live in is a smaller one. So I was just urging them, why don't we shift to a bigger house? The rental is just going to be 50 to 60K per month, and we can shift to a much bigger house and earn some money from here, which is going to be in the range of 20 to 30K for letting it out to other people. But this is a particular mindset that all we Indian have, that agar jana hai to apne ghar mein jana hai. That is the kind of mindset that we all have, that if we want to
वो
move
35
out,
साल के बाद वो 35 साल के बाद अपने
yeah.
घर में जाएंगे पक्का, और 35 साल के बाद 25 साल में आप कैसे घर खरीदेंगे?
Yeah, so this is something that that I understand. But what about the families that are over there? So my mom doesn't understand this concept. She directly say that I'm just in this house. If you want me to move out, you have got to purchase another one. I'm not gonna go in a rental one now. So how do you see that co-living can totally disrupt this mindset if the particular legalization, standardization of the retail money going into the bigger properties is done?
See, again, I'm just going back to the life stages, right?
Hmm.
There is actually, even today, there is, everything is dependent on demand and supply. Is there demand for rental housing in urban markets? The answer is yes.
Hmm.
As a family, you will never move into a rental housing because always the aspiration is to buy your own house. The age group that you're talking about is the 32, 33, 35 plus, up to that age of 65. They want to live in their own house, right?
Hmm.
But when you move into a newer market, you are always looking at rentals. Is there enough supply of that rental housing? The answer is no. That is why there is a demand supply mismatch. And that is where the retail investment money will flow in. At one point in time, I had 7 houses. There was only one house that I lived in. There are 6 houses that I had purchased and which I used to manage by doing it, by putting them out on rent. I wish there was a real estate mutual fund where I could have just put the money in and I could have earned the returns and yet
Exactly. This
had a.
this this was the thing that that I was just talking about. That how do you see the market can be evolved into that? Once suppose the legalization is there, the particular standardization of process is done, all the compliance, everything suppose that this has been managed hypothetically. So how do you think that the market can be evolved? Is this going to be a plug and play model like Uber and Ola that you just buy a particular car, put it out on Ola, get a particular driver to just flow it around? So how do you think that the market dynamics will change?
So that's what, again, once assuming that there is a legalization of this entire transaction, who are the important stakeholders for this? Important stakeholders are, one, a consumer with, or a retail consumer with money. Number one, he's the starting point for us. Second is there is a legal vehicle where he can cut the check and put the money into, right? Because that is very, very important. Third is the deployment of from that legal vehicle into a real estate asset which is reliable and which actually earns that kind of returns, right? So there is a real estate company that actually develops this kind of an asset which is good for this kind of an asset class. Fourth, there is an operator who manages that asset class, the guy who actually buys this asset class, right? Or the guy who's actually develops this asset class is not going to be able to manage it. So, which means an operator like Colive. And five, there is a person who finally consumes this real estate. These are the five stakeholders who have to come together to create this product, right? So it's very important that the evolution happens with all these five stakeholders moving in the same direction. So until even about 5 years ago, there was not even a single operator. There was always demand. There was always money on the other side. But in between, there are those three elements which are very, very important. So there is one end which is the consumer retail money which is available. On the other side of the pyramid, there is always the tenant who wants to consume this kind of assets. But there was no this asset class. This asset class was not developed. This asset class was not managed by operators. And there was no legal vehicle to put the money in. So the in-between steps of 2, 3, and 4 are getting evolved at this point in time. And I don't see, very long from now that this will become completely legalized, reliable and trustworthy way of investing as well as consuming.
Oh, that sounds great. So, Suresh, here we'll be arriving at a very interesting point where there will be 6 questions, a 5-side chat, where you'll be having 2 options to choose from, and you can you just got to pick one of them, and give a small justification that why do you think that that is right. Yeah. So, are
Sounds
we
good.
good? Yeah. So,
Yes.
Suresh, when we talk about the initial days of a business, what do you prioritize more, keeping ethics or keeping growth?
Sorry, your voice is.
Hmm.
Hello.
Yeah. Is it good?
Repeat that again.
Yeah, so I was saying that in the initial days of the business, what do you prioritize more, ethics of an organization or the growth?
Growth.
And how so?
No, no, growth is important, right? There is no point in having a small business. You need to focus on growth. Growth is crucial. Unit economics are crucial, but growth comes priority. Top line growth is an answer for every misery that you have as an entrepreneur. If your business keeps growing, which means that consumers are liking you, then all the other problems will come and they will get resolved. But if you don't have consumers and if you have money in the bank, there's no business. You're just sitting there.
So Suresh, what do you prioritize more, an amazing investor with a lot of money or an amazing co-founder?
I think an amazing co-founder will finally take you to an amazing investor. So I think you'll always need. It's not just about an amazing co-founder. I think it has got to do with an entire amazing team. Your amazing team will end up taking you to the next level, which will ensure that whether you get an investor or not, you are profitable. All your focus areas are taken care of, and that person is as passionate as you are. Most important, they have to have the same kind of energy levels. Whether it's the co-founder, whether it's the entire team member, the core team member, they have to believe in the concept as much as you do, and they have to be as passionate and as driven as you are. Only then this will be successful. In my life, even when I was with Citibank before Remit to India, a bunch of Citibankers, all of us started something called E2K Technologies. This was in 2000. And it was really sad that, we couldn't take it off in a big manner because the only thing that didn't click for us was our ego. And now when I look back, and in fact, all of us are still very good friends. And this was an idea which was almost like a Zomato, what it is today. And we keep having a big laugh saying that, listen, we didn't know who will lock the office. We didn't know, whether people will come on time, who will take notes. These kind of silly issues that happens between immature founders causes a lot of downfall. So I think having great founders, great core team members is far more important uh, than money. Of course, money is important, but it will follow.
So for a business, what is more crucial, having an amazing product or having some amazing operations?
Amazing product which is packaged well. You know, operations you can buy, product you need to build, right? There's a
And when
lot
it
of
comes to
difference.
product, what do is aspiring more, a quality product or a product with more and more quantity features?
Quality is important. You can never compromise on it, but I think it's very important to have a product uh, that is liked by the consumers. A lot of times what happens is, again, my Citibank example, Citibank used to sit, product managers in Citibank used to sit in one corner office and come up with products which the consumer never uses, right? It has to be with your ears to the ground, your eyes right there as to what the consumer wants, and that's what you need to build, and that's what is important. A consumer focused product obviously is far more critical for the success of a business than anything else.
Okay, so profitability versus sustainability. What do you think drives the business more?
Obviously, if you're very profitable, you sustain, right? One leads to the other. Profitability leads to your sustainability. But my advice to entrepreneurs is never give up. There will be a time for everything. You just need to hang in there. You have to have a lot of patience. I've talked about many P's. First, my biggest important P is always product. The second one is packaging. But I always also advise that patience is a very, very important virtue. As an entrepreneur, as a startup professional, I think it's very important for you to have patience. Not every day will be a good day. 4 out of 5 days in the week are going to be bad. You have to have the mental strength to just hang in there, right? You have to believe that today is not the day, but that Friday is going to be the day when you start off on Monday, so that you can survive the week. So, and on a Friday, you have to think that next Monday is going to be the day. So, I guess you have to take it by the
So
week.
what about, when we talk about just keeping these patients and everything, what do you think, is more crucial, having a long-term vision or having some short-term goals?
I think it's. I mean, you might find it funny. You might have. I keep using this all the time. You can never go to the second floor without building the ground floor. You can never go to the 10th floor without getting to the 7th floor. This is simple logic, common sense. People don't use it. They all have some great vision. They say, when you start a company and you'll just say, "Acha, kya karna hai tere ko? Acha, mere ko Facebook banna hai." Arey, I wish life was so easy, right? There are so many factors that are going into becoming a Facebook. So, I think as a startup guy, you need to be first focused on your short-term thing. You have to get your basement right. You have to get your ground floor right. Don't think that I'm talking like a real estate guy, but that's what when you travel in an elevator, you have to go ground first, second, third, and then reach the pinnacle. You can't get to Burj Khalifa on the top without building the rest. So, so I guess that's very important.
So, Suresh, it has been an amazing discussion, and as I mentioned, that most of our listeners are aspiring entrepreneurs, or people who are just starting out with their careers, the young ones who really try to gain some insight. So, any kind of advice or any kind of recommendation that you would have for them?
Yeah, as I mentioned, I think it's very important that the decisions that you take. I mean, for me, it is as I started off, uh, the 12B kind of a decision metrics is very very important. As entrepreneurs, as startup people, I don't think we should be struggling with what decisions you have already taken. You have to start moving on. You've already taken a decision. You've reached the next level. You need to now progress at that level and figure out what are the decisions at this point in time. You cannot keep brooding over the past decisions. There's no point brooding over spilt milk. You need to be focused on what is accurate at this point in time. You have to move with the time.
No, that was amazing, Suresh. So, Suresh, thanks a lot for getting on the Legex show. It was amazing, spending this time with you and gaining these insights.
Yes, thank you, Visesh. I think you've been very smart in terms of picking up the right questions. It wasn't rehearsed, and I think it was on the flow. It just came out very well. I'm very glad and happy that you guys are taking this effort to put together this kind of a show. And I'm sure that young entrepreneurs will listen to this and hopefully benefit out of it. Do let me know how do we subscribe and get onto it. I'll be happy to listen to anything that comes up in the future as well.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Suresh.
Thank you.